She sat there like any other defendant, hands clasped in her lap, feet steady, eyes calm. Nobody in the courtroom would suspect what lay beneath the poise. Yet every lie he told would crack walls, and every truth she had hidden would become her weapon. It started with a traffic stop at 2:13 a.m. in Eastwood, a neighborhood always on edge. The street lamps flickered, rain slicked the pavement. Patrol car tires hissed as Officer Reynolds turned on his sirens and followed a black SUV. Inside it, Cassandra Cass Monroe, returning from an overseas assignment. She was undercover, in transition, her CIA cover fresh, but her instincts razor sharp. Reynolds' lights caught her in the rear view. He pulled her over. Cass rolled down her window precisely, hands visible, voice calm. "Good evening, officer. Is there a problem?" Reynolds barked. "License and registration." "Step out of the vehicle." His tone carried a sharp edge, as though he expected challenge. Cass complied. As she handed over her documents, he asked to search the vehicle. She hesitated. Her training warned her, but legally he had no probable cause. She asked, "Am I under arrest?" He snapped, "Not yet. But don't make me find cause." The tension in his voice crackled. Cass refused the search. She knew her rights and had backup legal support in place already. But as she returned to the car, Reynolds claimed he smelled marijuana. He ordered her out again and said he'd call a K9 unit. 2 minutes later, K9 units arrived. The dog circled. Cass's heart beat steadily. She knew how to manage stress. The dog signaled positive. Reynolds claimed probable cause. Cass was handcuffed. She asked for a lawyer. The arresting report would later claim she failed to comply, resisted, and smelled of narcotics. She was booked, fingerprinted, declared suspect in a drug case. The newsflash: woman arrested in drug case after alleged K9 signal. Social media lit up. The local TV anchor repeated the claims. Whoever she was, Cass Monroe was now the accused. 2 days later was pre-trial hearing. The courtroom filled with local press, curious onlookers, Cass's defense attorney publicly unknown, and secretly Cass's intelligence backup monitoring from afar. The prosecutor, Sean Whitaker, stood at the front with a smug confidence. Whitaker began his opening statement. "You will hear from Officer Reynolds. He will testify that he saw signs of nervousness, smelled marijuana, that the defendant refused to cooperate, and that the K9 dog alerted. This is a clear case." He painted Cass as suspicious, evasive. The camera in courtrooms caught every face. Cass sat straight, expression composed. Behind her, her attorney whispered reassurances. The public murmured. Was she guilty? Or another victim? Reynolds' testimony came. He said Cass's hands shook. She avoided eye contact. She refused to produce documents quickly. She fumbled. He smelled marijuana and the K9 dog alerted. Each statement dramatized the scene. He spoke with authority. He wore a badge. He expected trust. Cass's attorney cross-examined. "Officer, did you detect actual marijuana smell? Did you see drugs? Did the dog physically alert you? Did you read her Miranda rights properly?" Reynolds stumbled slightly. He insisted yes. He said her behavior matched standard narcotics protocols. He claimed he acted by the book. Cass rose for her testimony. She spoke slowly, clearly. "Officer, I have nothing to hide." My hands remained calm. "I cooperated fully. I never gave you cause. At no point did you ask me directly about drugs. And the K9 protocol was violated. They used the dog before securing the perimeter." The courtroom hushed. Whitaker objected, said speculation. The judge sustained or overruled, but Cass's words struck. There was a flicker in Reynolds's composure. Then, in a quiet voice, "Your Honor, I request full disclosure of the K9 logs, the vehicle search warrant, dash cams, body cams, and Officer Reynolds's prior disciplinary records." That request, simple, procedural, sent a ripple. The judge granted it. Whitaker muttered under his breath. Nobody in the courtroom knew who Cass Monroe really was. Her CIA designation, Deputy Director of Covert Operations, codename Shadowhawk. She'd overseen black site operations, infiltration, high-stakes intel gathering. She walked the world with invisibility. She carried intelligence, secrets, and allies who listened in real time. When she was arrested, her CIA cover files were sealed, her backup team activated, legal and intelligence channels merged. She would not let lies stand, but she wouldn't win by force. She'd win by exposure. That night, her secure line buzzed. She whispered a code word, pulled up encrypted channels. She accessed a server that monitored the K9 unit logs, everything. She cross-referenced the K9 dog's handler assignment, maintenance records, calibration logs. She pulled police radio frequencies. She watched Reynolds's off-duty communications. She listened in on his home calls. She saw patterns. She recognized a name. Captain Lydia Price, Reynolds's direct supervisor. Price had recently been accused in internal audits of favoring false arrest quotas. Cass saw evidence of manipulation, fake tip lines, misallocated resources, planted informants. Someone high up wanted Cass Monroe silenced or discredited. She whispered a command: disclose the logs. Expose the false narrative. Don't let lies become judgment. A week passed. Cass's defense team began turning the screws. They produced Reynolds's prior complaints, cases of misconduct, falsified reports, dropped prosecutions. The K9 unit logbook showed no prior alerts at that location that night. The maintenance log showed the dog's sensor was due calibration. Its sensitivity was off. The dashcam and in-car video revealed a strange flicker at the moment the dog signaled possible tampering. In a sealed court submission, Cass's team submitted satellite intercepts showing Officer Reynolds communicating with unknown numbers at 2:07 a.m., shortly before the stop. They submitted cell phone GPS logs, putting those unknown numbers near precinct offices. They subpoenaed Captain Price's emails, revealing coordination with Reynolds about quota targets, shadow operations, handling high-value targets. Furthermore, Cass's team introduced forensic voice analysis from Reynolds's radio feed. One message included, "Target is CIA cover, garbled, but present." That piece seemed insane, but Cass's team backed it with matching records from intelligence intercepts. The courtroom atmosphere changed. Whitaker's confident stride faltered. Reynolds's eyes flickered. The judge looked uneasy. The audience leaned forward. Then, in open court, Cass's attorney handed the judge a folder, full CIA backup request, sealed status override. The judge, bound by legal authority, accepted it under strict confidentiality. Within minutes, the judge called a recess. The courtroom emptied slowly, press murmurs swirling. When the hearing resumed, the judge's tone was measured. New evidence has been admitted under seal. These matters may involve federal interest. I hereby place an order of protection over the defendant, Ms. Monroe. All further prosecutorial actions immediately paused until federal review. The judge's gavel pounded. The room gasped. Reynolds' face drained color. Whitaker sat motionless. Cass's expression remained composed. She only exhaled once. News outlets exploded. CIA officer reveals false arrest plot. Cop lies in court, woman fights back. Headlines splashed Cassie's name. Some speculated she was a whistleblower, others murmured conspiracy. Public opinion split, but many saw the courage. Internal Affairs launched full investigation. Captain Price's email servers were seized. Reynolds was placed on suspension. Anonymous tips surfaced. Prior victims of Reynolds's precinct came forward. A man claimed Reynolds raided his car years ago under fabricated tip. Another woman claimed false DUI charges. Dozens of complaints united under the banner Reynolds Pattern Unit. Meanwhile, intelligence brass intervened quietly. Kes Monroe's identity as a high-level CIA officer prevented local forces from pushing further. Her agency opened an integrity probe. Federal prosecutors reviewed evidence. The tribunal methodically moved to protect her rights. Cass didn't collapse into anonymity. She stepped forward in a press statement carefully managed. She said, "I respect law enforcement. I have trained many of them. But I will not tolerate institutional lies. If you accuse a woman in court, you better be ready to back it with truth, not false theatrics. I expect accountability." Cities erupted with protests about police corruption, abuse of power, false arrests. Civil rights groups rallied. Cassie's case became a symbol, not just a spy fighting lies, but a woman demanding justice in a system stacked against her. Weeks later, in a hearing filled with heightened security, Reynolds was called to testify again. This time under threat of perjury charges. Cassie's defense team laid out indisputable evidence. Radio logs, satellite intercepts, prior complaints, manipulated K9 logs, even traces of audio pointing to a coordinated suppression operation. The pressure mounted. Reynolds, once confident, now trembled. Under cross-examination, he collapsed. He admitted parts, choke statements, failure to follow protocol, rushing the decision, fabricating procedural violations. He claimed orders from above, that we needed numbers, that we believed she was a high-value suspect. His answers sounded weak, defensive. The public could see the crack. Captain Price, subpoenaed, was forced to respond. Her defense faltered under the weight of emails, memos, chain of command clarifications. She admitted to assigning quotas, intimidating K9 teams, pushing officers to secure evidence in difficult cases. She denied knowledge of Cass's identity, but the paper trail, her digital record, said otherwise. The judge finally ruled. All charges against Cass Monroe were dismissed. She stood free. The judge ordered disciplinary action against Reynolds, Price, and others. Federal oversight was imposed on the precinct. A civil suit was opened. The local DA's office was replaced. The K9 unit was suspended pending inspection. Kes Monroe rose from her seat. She looked over the courtroom, then at Reynolds. She said simply, "Your lies shattered. The truth rebuilt. May this be a reminder. A badge does not grant impunity." Kies returned to her covert role, but she didn't disappear. She stayed in Eastwood for a bit longer, as local communities asked her to speak, to mentor, to support oversight. She taught civilians basic legal rights, negotiation tactics, self-defense, all under the radar. She mentored local activists on how to demand transparency from law enforcement. Reynolds' career was destroyed. He was charged with perjury, misconduct, and false arrest. Price faced internal charges, possible federal obstruction. Many in the precinct resigned or were transferred. The precinct's reputation cratered. Civil rights organizations used her case as a template. If a top CIA officer can demand accountability, they said, so can every citizen. The local legislature passed new laws enhancing citizen review boards, stricter oversight on K-9 deployments, mandatory video transparency. Kess never sought fame, but her name became a quiet legend. Young lawyers cited her case. Activists told the story. Communities shared it. The cop lied. She knew better. She made them pay. One night, Cass stood by the Eastwood River. The city lights glittered. She held a mug of tea. Her phone buzzed with encrypted updates. She let a small smile slip. The world had shifted a little. A victory not just for her, but for truth. He lied in court, thinking his badge would shield him. He didn't know she was high enough to see through every lie. She didn't come as a thunderbolt. She came as a standard, willing to demand justice on her own terms. In the end, she reminded everyone, identity doesn't nullify rights. Lies don't stand up to scrutiny. And sometimes the system fears one quiet woman who decides to stop being invisible. If this story gripped you, share it. Let the message live. A lie told in court against someone with truth will always crack.